So picking up from where we were last time, again, like I said, oh man, let me find back what we're needing. There we go. It's a multiple choice test. You just want to be able to solve it. Yes, completing the square is a nice thing to be able to do, but if you need to do quadratic formula, get it right, get it right. If you're going to do quadratic formula, remember quadratic formula requires you to have ax plus b, let's see here, ax squared, excuse me, plus bx plus c equals 0 before you start. So if you were going to do quadratic formula, you have to move the 1 over and set it equal to 0 before you do quadratic formula. Otherwise, your answer is going to be wrong. But I'm going to do completing the square because that's what it says. So to complete the square, and this is actually not a hard one, you take the linear term, you half it, and you square it. And that's going to fill in these blanks. So when you half it, you get 4, you square it, you get 16. So what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So at that point, you can take it and you can squish it down as a binomial squared. Now some of you actually like to come in here and actually factor that. Well, two numbers that multiply to 16 and add to 8 is 4 and 4 plus plus, so that lets me know I got x plus 4 in here. Otherwise, it's the square root of the front, the square root of the back, and whatever the front sign is. Add those up, I got 17. Now, it's the same thing we just did on the other problem on the last video where you had to do the square root property. You have this thing isolated and it's squared, so you come in here and you can do the square root of both sides. These cancel, I've got x plus 4, and once again, please, 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 don't forget to put your plus minus. Now, you're not done until you get the x isolated, so the 4's got to be kicked over. He's negative on this side. You can't put them together because you got rational and an irrational. You're stuck. But that is two answers. And you have to have two answers when you solve a quadratic. Remember, good old fundamental theorem of algebra. Okay, use the quadratic formula to solve this equation. Simplify your answer as much as possible. Well, first of all, we've got to get it in that form I just told you about, that ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So multiply this out, as much as that might seem weird, and then take this 3 and bring him over. Okay, so now we've got a, b, c. Okay, and don't forget your quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, if you got to sing it, sing it. But put your stuff in. Remember, these are the danger zones. Whenever you're writing them down, this is just the opposite of b. So whatever b sign is, write the opposite. And the b squared is always and forevermore positive. Please don't ever put a negative number in there, because when you square a negative, it is positive. When you square a positive, it's positive. So 12 squared is just 144. And then my a value is 4, and my c value is a 3. So down here, I've got a is 4. Okay, got everything in there. Now, if you're going to do it by hand, which would be great because you guys are smart and you can do this, you just need to multiply all these out first. So just let the 144 sit here. So 4 times 4 is 16 times 3. 3 times 16, I do believe that's 48, so minus 48. I'll double check that just to make sure I didn't do something stupid. No, I'm good. Okay, so that would be 8 down there. Now, we do need to figure out what is 144 minus 48. I do believe that's, what, 96? Square root of 96 over 8. Okay, now 96 is not a perfect square, so we've got to break that down. So it's going to be some time to play with the calculator. But you can't try to reduce until you get a number here, because remember, it has to be all 3 of these places or nothing. So now 96, I'm pretty sure 4 goes in there. Let's see if 16 goes in there. Ooh, I got lucky. It does. So I've got negative 12 plus or minus. 96 is 16 times 6. There's not a perfect square that goes into 6, so I know that 16 is the largest thing. So once I break that down, the square root of 16 is 4 when he goes out. The 6 is stuck. So once I get there, all 3 of these terms are divisible by the same thing. The largest thing is 4. So divide them all by 4. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. And then when you divide 4 by 4, you get 1. You don't have to put a 1, just leave nothing in front of square root of 6. And then 8 divided by 4 is 2. So there is my 2 answers. And again, you should expect 2 because, well, it's a quadratic. Okay. So this says, after using the quadratic formula to solve the equation, give the sum of the 2 solutions. So, the implication is better do the quadratic formula first. Um, you know what? Looking at that thing, I don't know if it jumped out at y'all or not, but 5 goes into all of those. You can factor out the 5 first. So if you factor out the 5, that would be x squared plus, what is that? 8x plus, I have no idea, 75 divided by 5. I probably should, but I don't, sorry. That's 15 equals 0. Oh my, do we even need the quadratic formula? I don't think so. I think we can do this with factoring, and heck, if you can do it easier, why work your butt off? You got x and x. What two numbers multiply to 15 and add to 8? That'd be 5 and 3. Signs are the same, both plus. So now, if you set 5 equal to 0, that's nonsense, so that's just out. And then both of these set equal to 0, you just change your signs. So, but I'm not done. It said give the sum of the two solutions. So the sum of these two things, negative 5 plus negative 3 is negative 8. That should be the answer that they're wanting. Let me double check. Number 19. Yep, that's it. So, yeah, if you can do it an easier way, by all means, do it an easier way. Good grief. So this thing says change the equation to quadratic form and solve it by any method. Well, that's what we were doing anyway, wasn't it? Okay, you're wanting to change forms anyway, because who wants to solve that thing with a fraction in it? So the same thing as we had done throughout this whole review, multiply through by your common denominator, which shouldn't be hard because you've only got one of them. So x times everything. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. And then x times this fraction, the x's cancel out and you just get 12. Well, let's see if we factor, because factoring would be fantastic. Okay, so moving the 12 over, we get it equal to 0. Are there two numbers that multiply to 12 and subtract to give me 4? Yes, there is. That would be 6 and 2. Signs are different. Big one is plus. So that gives me x equals negative 6 and x equals 2. And that's it. Okay, keep trucking. You got a rectangle. I see no rectangle. That means I must draw, right? Okay, so a rectangle is 2 times as long as it is wide. So let's put a W here, and it's twice as long. So let's see here, 2W. Okay, so always use that as a, go back and reread it if you need to. But whichever one is mentioned last, that's typically your variable. So since width was mentioned last, just put a W down and then build your length off of it. So if the area is 162, so A equals 162, find its perimeter. Well, first of all, I got to figure out what the sides are, right? Now, area of a rectangle, isn't that area is length times width? Well, if that's the case, then my area is 162, and my length is, well, put that right out width, and then my length is what, 2W? So basically, this is bugging me because it's backwards, so I'm going to spin it around. Hope I don't throw y'all off. But yeah, I turned it around because that was just weird. This is going to allow me to find what the width is. Remember, you got to divide first. So 162 divided by 2, that would be 81. Do the square root of both sides. Oops, excuse me. Look, if you put plus or minus, it's not going to hurt anything, but we're talking about measurements here. So you're really wanting the primary root. You're just wanting the 9, because we don't go around saying, hey, the width is negative 9. That's just weird. So if the width is 9, then that means your length is, let's see here, 18. So if it asks for a perimeter, well, just go around the little thing. I got 9 there, and I got 18 there. So 18 and 18 give me a total of, what, 36, and 9 and 9 give me an 18. So 36 and 18 is 54. So perimeter is 54. Nobody said you had to write an equation. You can doodle. So we got another rectangle that we can't see. So it's 3 feet longer than it is wide. Well, again, width comes last, so go ahead and put that W down. Now build off of it. Go back and read. 3 feet longer. Longer means more, so W plus 3. If the area is 4 square units, okay, well, we just said that area is multiplying my length times my width, and that's going to give me what my area is. So that would be W squared plus 3W, and let's go ahead and move the 4 over. Minus 4 equals 0. Can you factor? Two numbers that multiply to 4 and subtract to 3, that would be 4 and 1. Signs are different. Big one's plus. So W is negative 4. W is 1. Now, which one's crap? That would be the negative, because we don't measure in negatives. So your real answer is 1. So it says find the dimensions, though, so we're not completely done. I need my width as 1, and I need my length to be defined as 4. So this is kind of like a little shadow over here, but yeah, since it said dimensions, you need both. Okay, keep trucking. Let's see how far we can get. Find all the real solutions of this equation. So we're starting with a radical equation. So we're going the other way. Instead of taking the square root, we're raising it to the second power. So I got to come in here and square both sides. When I do that, the radical and the power still cancel each other out. And I got x minus 3. Well, 2 squared is 4. Now you just got a little baby problem. That's just x is 7. Now, you're more than welcome to check it, but those right there always work. Where it gets, where you have extraneous solutions is when you actually square an x over here to the side, like where the 2 is. So, oh, yeah, right here, perfect. Now they don't have x, they've got y, so I should have said a variable. So I'm going to square both sides, and the reason I can do that is the radical has to be isolated. So don't try squaring until your radical is all by itself. That's what permits you to go ahead and start that. If any of the 5 or the y had been on the left, we would have to move that first. Okay. Oops, my bad. Hit the wrong button. All right, when I square the left side, the square and square root cancel, and I get y plus 1. Now, when I square this binomial, I mean, you have to square the binomial like normal. So either write it twice and multiply it all out, or do your quick rule. So I'm going quick. So square the first, twice the product, that would be a negative 10y, and then square the last, y squared. Okay, now once I realize that this line right here has a square in it, I realized I've got to factor this thing, or at least attempt to. Again, factoring doesn't work, quadratic formula, here I come. But try to get everything, you've got to get 0 on one side because you want this term to be positive. He's positive over here, so make everybody come over and join him. So I'm going to put y squared first, and then I'm going to move these two over and make them join their buddies, their little like terms. So that'd be a negative 11y, and that'd be, what is that, positive 24. Okay, but you got to have the equal 0. All right, what two numbers multiply to 24 and add to 11? 3 and 8. Signs are the same, both negative. So that's y equals 3, y equals 8. And we do need to check. You have to check your answers because we squared with the variable over here, so must check. All right, so you can put as much writing down as you want to. If you put 3 in there, that's going to be the square root of 4 equals 5 minus 3. Well, square root of 4 is 2, 5 minus 3 is 2. This is good. I can keep him. If I put 8 in there, that's going to be the square root of 9 equals 5 minus 8. Okay, well, 5 minus 8 is negative 3, and the square root of 9, we're always going with primary root here, so this doesn't work. So, because that's, they're saying that that's 3 equals negative 3. He's out. So every time you're checking, go with primary root. So that means the positive version, okay? All right, so solve the inequality and write the solution in interval notation. So it's just like an equation, other than the fact if you multiply or divide, you have to invert your inequality. So we've got 10y minus 7y minus 14 plus 13 greater than or equal to 2y minus 10 plus 3. Good Lord. Okay, let's collect like terms. If you get lost because that thing's just crazy, put the little fence up. I need these two together gives me 3y. These two together gives me a minus 1. Well, that cleaned up well. And over here I got 2y, put these two together is negative 7. Okay, if I get my y's together, remember variables need to be on the left. That's just the way it needs to be on inequalities. So bringing the 2y over, it works beautifully. And then add my 1. That's going to be greater than or equal to a negative 6. I never once had to multiply or divide by negative. And so I need to give my interval notation. If you want to, graph it if it bugs you. So we're going this way. Remember, this is why we want the letter on the left, because you go the way it points when the letter is on the left. The little line underneath means fill in that dot, which means we got a bracket, a negative 6, and we're going to the arrow, which is infinity. Okay, so we will pick it up from here in the next